Ikoria is almost upon us. We are about to enter the Lair of the Behemoths and see exactly what this set has. But first, why don't we make some predictions?
I love predicting things. It gives us an opportunity to just spew off a bunch of random mumbo jumbo and maybe it sticks, and if not, everybody's gonna forget about it.
And the video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. Ikoria pre-release preview season is almost among us, and we are going to talk about our predictions for the set. But first, if you think that we are entertaining or informative, if you would go down there and hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it, and Jake would too.
It's the best way to support the channel as we continue to grow. We want you to smash the button into the ground. So let's go ahead and get into the video. We're going to talk about Ikoria spoiler season. Joel has really done a lot of work. He's taken a big interest in the Ikoria stuff, so he's going to be kind of like taking this video by the reins, and I'm going to be kind of like riding the video like a little core on the side of a mountain with just like a couple hooks, like hoping to hold on. And
that's perfect.
Who knows? Am I going to get smashed and pulverized into the mountain, or am I going to survive like every single dwarf on the side of the mountain in The Hobbit? It's hard to tell. I guess let's do it.
Hey, that's not a bad way to start off an Ikoria video. We really don't have much at the time of filming of this video as far as information. We have a piece of key art that I'll throw up right now, some big creature that's got a lot of different looking, bestial parts attached to it of some kind. You got Vivian down there, and you got probably what looks like some dinosaurs, so maybe we're gonna see some dinosaurs. We've definitely got some beasts, but we do have some specific predictions, so let's jump over into those. So you'll see some art for some cards up that are from different sets, but I pulled cards to highlight points. The point of this one is that emerge as an ability. So whenever I've watched monster movies growing up, I was always a big fan of Godzilla and video and movies like this. And Mothra, Godzilla, these creatures always seem to want to like burst up from the ocean or burst up from a mountain, like a mountain explodes, and when the dust settles, there's a giant monster there waiting to fight. So we had the mechanic emerge in a previous set that was the Eldrazi, busting out, kind of Lovecraftian busting out of different other living things. How about creatures, beasts, things like this that are bursting out of land? So instead of sacking creatures, you're sacking lands.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me like in Amonkhet, how you have those certain cards like that you could pay 2 green and you get this thing, but then all of your lands are tapped, like Bantu's Reckoning, where it's like destroy everything, but everything is tapped. So what we might see is like an effect that allows you to cast a creature, add it, but as part of that cost, you're sacrificing a land. So maybe you're playing something as big as like a 5/5 on turn 2.
But you're lowering your own mana curve. You're not going to be able to curve out because you're sacrificing lands to this thing.
Right, and it's like a 5/5 with no drawback. Maybe it has hexproof, and everybody's going to be like, oh my god, what were they even thinking?
Right.
But no, I think this is a good line of thinking. I mean, it's Layers of the Behemoths, or it's Lair of the Behemoths. So for me, it kind of gives me this idea of big things killing bigger things, which are being killed by the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You also, when you look at it from a standard perspective, you have cards like Arboreal Grazer, you have cards like Growth Spiral and Uro that are specifically like that curve 1, 2, 3 puts extra lands onto the battlefield every time you hit it. And so it would make sense for maybe 1 or 2 creatures that are actually good tournament quality standard playable cards to have an ability like this and it play well with some of the cards that we already have in standard.
Yeah, I could see that.
Moving on, we have Craterhoof Behemoth. So this is going to be our kind of layup prediction that there's going to be big creatures in Ikoria.
Oh man, I feel like the title kind of reveals that, but let's keep exploring down this cave.
Yeah, we've got Beast as a creature type there on Behemoth, and we're going to talk about creature type Beast here a little bit more in a second. But obviously, with things like this, we're going to have Craterhoof Behemoth style creatures that come in and give pump to all the creatures that are on the battlefield, maybe pertinent to a specific creature type. We'll have cards like Terastodon that come in and destroy stuff, and I believe that we're going to have some crossover with this set. So I wanted to highlight that with Craterhoof Behemoth as well while we're talking about it. I believe that we're going to have some crossover with Theros Beyond Death, with enchantments. I think that we're going to have some kind of like creatures melding, kind of like Power Ranger Zords into some kind of Megazord style creature. That could be a thing. We also could have a lot of land interactions like Emerge but with lands, or Terastodon stomping stuff, destroying things and creating things as a result of it, because Zendikar is coming out later this year. So I believe that this set is going to kind of be a bridge from Theros and enchantments and auras into kind of a lands matter thought process with Zendikar.
Yeah, possibly. Behemoths means, like, you know, from Wizards of the Coast, from their perspective, they have to be thinking, okay, we've just called something Lair of the Behemoths, so people are going to be expecting big. They're going to be expecting monstrous. So you have to really think, what can you do that you haven't done before, that really, you know, that isn't like a Carnage Tyrant, that isn't like... let's talk about like Colonian Behemoth that doesn't have something big and annoying like Shroud or Hexproof printed on it, because they've talked about how they don't really like Hexproof very much. It's a not very interactive kind of way of, you know, playing the game. It's kind of like a linear, we're just like tapping things saying go. So what can we do? Do we see something like what Nullhide Ferox got, where it's like a hexproof that you can turn off? I actually thought that card was really, really good, but it didn't see a lot of play. I don't know. I think
that
there's
card
a
specifically
lot
didn't see a lot of play because you couldn't play like, you know, instant sorceries or planeswalkers alongside.
Oh,
of it.
yeah. It
But
shuts down a lot of
saying.
things. Yeah.
The next one that we've got up is pretty simple. I would like to see the return of Kabu. Kabu is kind of a special creature type to me. This is exactly when I started playing, was Planeshift Invasion Apocalypse. Flametongue Kabu is one of my pet favorite creatures of all time, but I don't really have a format to play it in. It's not quite splashy enough for Commander.
So fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic.
I love
from like
the
a
card.
standard, it trades so well. It kills something when it enters. The 2 toughness, I don't even care about that. I just think the card is excellent. So,
yeah, I would love to see
it's really
a reprint of straight up Flametongue Kabu in this set, if not something similar. I think that this is a good time for us to get a reprint of a functional reprint of something like that, so that I would be able to play with it in standard or limited, like you're saying. That would be a format where the card would be good enough to play with.
Next, the Kavu comeback, baby.
Oh man, the Kavu comeback.
Kavu comeback.
That's what I'm looking for. Next up, we've got 2 creature types that we think may be relevant. Beasts is first. Beasts as a creature type have 2 very relevant creatures in the tribe, as it were, right now, with Lovestruck Beast and Questing Beast both seeing a lot of standard play over the last 3 to 4 months. So it would be very, very pertinent, and it would make a lot of sense if Beasts Matter or some kind of tribal support for more beasts came in, so that cards like Questing Beast, Lovestruck Beast could become even more relevant. This is kind of like a little side, keep your eye on them from a finance standpoint. I know that Questing Beast in particular has kind of seen a little dip as far as how much it's played lately, while still being a relevant card in Standard, in Pioneer, you know, things like this.
The problem with Lovestruck is that, or you're talking about Questing right now?
Yeah, Questing Beast has seen a little dip in how much it's played, but Lovestruck at the very end of the day is still a 5/5 for 3, even if you don't have a 1/1 to turn it on. As far as attacking, but you can still block with it. It's still a great body on the field for such a low mana cost.
This card I see being exceptionally potent, specifically because it fits so well into decks that have 1/1 mana dorks.
Oh yeah.
It creates a 1/1 that turns it on itself, but the fact that it has mana dorks that are just getting it out on turn 2, and that way it's ready to swing on turn 3, that's where this card really shines. There's a lot of value there. The casting cost on it is super cheap. Questing Beast, however, it makes sense that it's seeing a little bit of a dip. It's kind of an expensive card. I understand that it's got all of the keywords and it's a really, really good card. But when you think of like Eternal formats and stuff like that, it's one of these kind of cards that's like, it's really good, but is it good enough?
Well, I think that a lot of people have found that it's a little bit clunky because of that legendary creature type, which I think was a very specific decision by Wizards to print this hyper powerful card, but make it so that you can only have one copy at any time. I will tell you from firsthand experience, when I put a 4 of this into the deck, I will very often have 2 in hand, and I'll play one onto the battlefield, and I'm just like, well, I have one in case this one dies. At least it does have haste so that it can start punching in immediately again, because it does carry on its head a huge target having Vigi, Death Touch, and haste.
It's a lightning rod for removal.
Absolutely.
Any kind of removal is going to go right toward the Questing Beast. It's not one of those cards that you can let sit because of the vigilance. So once it comes on, it's like it wants to swing because it's ready to block as well.
I just thought it was very relevant that both of these creatures that have seen a lot of standard play both share the creature type beast in going into a set that is called Lair of the Behemoths. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I hear that.
Next up is another creature type which I think will be relevant, which is Giants. Right now you've got Realm Cloaked Giant in standard that says on its adventure, destroy all non-giant creatures. You've got an absolute house of a giant in Bone Crusher Giant, one of Jake's favorite cards to come out recently. And then you've also got a card that I think hasn't hit its full potential yet, but it is a giant with Tectonic Giant that represents possible card advantage or just lightning bolts all around. And I want you to see this, Jake, before I toss it over to you. Turn 2, Stomp. Turn 3, Bone Crusher Giant. Turn 4, Tectonic Giant. Turn 5, destroy all non-giant creatures. That's a hell of a curve.
I mean, the only thing is you're talking about red-white.
Sure.
So red-white is
curving out
difficult.
to 5 with red-white is not going to be super simple.
And yeah, we do have stuff that was recently printed like Haktos, which is going to be a potential really good Boros target, even though it is a non-giant. But I do think Giant Tribal could be a thing because it does make sense for them to have, and I really do think it's going to be something like big things killing bigger things, killing bigger things. And then it's like we're going into Zendikar where we're going to see a bunch of Eldrazi, and it's going to dwarf all of these things that we thought were huge.
Yeah.
Is kind of like the idea. You know, if Boros could become good in standard, I would really be pleased to see that. I think that would be an interesting change.
It's also worth it to note that red does have Fires of Invention, which has, I've seen, act as a little bit of mana fixing, as long as you can drop a land, act as mana fixing in decks like this. So yeah, I think Giants have some potential going into a set. Again,
Fires of Invention is an amazing card that enables a whole bunch of strategies that just otherwise would never be viable.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we'll see it. Next up, here's an uncommon from old Zendikar block, original Zendikar. So with original Zendikar, we had the quest cycle, i.e. Quest for the Gravelord. We also had the Ascension cycle, like Pyromancer Ascension. I think that in a set called Lair of the Behemoths with Vivian as your seemingly titular character for the set, having hunts as a cycle, HUNT hunts as a cycle, similar to Ascensions or quests that have quest counters or experience counters or something like that, and you get those by killing creatures or revealing creatures from your hand or playing creatures, or when there's a certain number of creatures on the battlefield. Maybe we see a cycle like that of Vivian actually going on hunts.
Yeah, I could see that. So essentially you've included this card as just like kind of like an idea of something that they could
look
revisit.
At this one. This is whenever a creature goes into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a quest counter on it, remove 3 quest counters, get a 5/5. Yeah,
I think, I remember trying to tinker with this card back in the day because I was like, you're paying 1 to get a 5/5, and obviously the card isn't nearly as potent as I used to think it was.
Sure, but this Pyromancer Ascension has actually seen play
very
at
good.
certain,
in
certain years,
modern card.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I could see a cycle of hunts with maybe one of them being a premier card. After that, I've got heirloom blade here as an example, but I think that there will be some kind of focus on herds. I think that herds of creatures, perhaps, I'm kind of thinking tribal with this whole thing, but tribes of dinosaurs and birds and beasts and giants and things like that, groups of these. And so any cards that say creatures that share a creature type. So if it's like how many creatures that share a creature type on the battlefield, like Old Banner, you've got Heirloom Blade here that looks for creature cards that share a creature type of it when you reveal them from your top of your library. I think things like that could see some viability in Ikoria.
I think that that's a really good way of looking at it. It kind of reminds me of like primordial times, kind of like maybe this is going to be kind of like a caveman kind of like set, and really it is like prehistoric, like mammoths, and I don't know. It's
saber-toothed mammoths. That's a great idea. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. So, I think that this is interesting, and not making it specifically like vampires. That is like an organized group, or humans. Like humans. Yeah. So. Yeah, maybe it would be interesting to explore something like, just giants.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense.
I agree completely. My last prediction for the set is the color arrangement of the set. And I think that we're going to go back to a time of shards. I'm really hoping that we get shards in this one. Naya, Bant, these can make a comeback, even though they probably, because we're not going back to Alara per se, won't be called Bant and Naya and things like this. But it would be cool to go back to shards as a viable thing. I do think that we'll see a lot of gold cards. This Ikoria set pretty much kicks off the 2020 year of Commander. We're going to have these sealed Commander products specifically per set. So Ikoria sealed Commander decks, and I think we're going to even have Zendikar sealed Commander decks, and they're going to start printing sealed Commander decks with every set that comes out. So having shards, having gold as a focus, so that they, players can go and buy booster packs, get dope creature rare that's 3 colors, and immediately slot it into their 3-color commander deck. I really think that shards is where we're going to see an organization of colors. We just came off of guilds. We just came off of Theros after that, which is pretty monocolor focused.
Sure.
So, because everybody's worshiping the gods. And it would be a nice time now to go back to a 3-color look.
Yeah, I think that that's a good prediction. We want to hear from you. What do you think? What have you heard? I want you to put it in the comments. We will get back to you. We love discussing these kind of things with you. So make sure to leave that down there. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing. It's the best way to support the channel, and it's a free way to do it.
Absolutely. We do know that there have been some leaks. We have specifically avoided those, not for any specific reason, just we kind of want to wait for spoiler season to start in earnest, and then obviously so that we can look at information, analyze it, and give the best information to you. We will be looking at everything in depth and making the most informed decisions and videos that we possibly can. Like Jake said, hit that subscribe button. Let us know down there below what you think Ikoria is going to hold. If you want to support us further, we have a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. Go over there and check it out for monthly giveaways. And if you want to hang out with us, we're streaming most Tuesday and Thursdays over on Twitch. Jake, I'm tapped out. Till Ikoria, dude.
You said all the things. Until next time, we will see you on the flippity.